Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing. Topping our newscast, the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs wants the public to pay attention what they're being charged at restaurants. On Tuesday, the commissioner issued a statement about gratuity charges and whether or not they should be automatic. News 2's Erica Parsons has the story.
Licensing and consumer affairs officials say they're getting complaints about restaurant charges locally.
I actually had a case where a gentleman sat down with one other person, had a meal, and was charged automatic gratuity at 15%.
Commissioner Devin Carrington says a gratuity is actually voluntary, so no restaurant should include it as an automatic charge.
If you have a nice waitress or waiter and they've served you well, you feel that you want to give them a tip, you can do so, but it's voluntary.
The department says mandatory charges for services are okay, but they should have another label.
The problem is that the public is given the impression that this is a mandatory payment. If it actually is mandatory, then it shouldn't be called gratuity. It should be called a service charge. When you call it a gratuity, then you deceive the public as to what it actually is, and the law frowns upon, the law prohibits deceptive practices.
My concern is if they're going to do that, does that go directly to the individual or does it go to the establishment? If I give it to the waitress or the waiter, I know that it's going to that individual.
The law also says that all prices should be properly displayed to patrons. Angry Nate's Seafood Restaurant is a local favorite in Christiansted. Their costs are listed on the menu as a service charge.
We have a standard written policy on all of our menus for parties of 6 or more.
Like many restaurants, those charges help pay the wait staff.
They probably wouldn't survive on $3 an hour.
I'm accustomed to seeing it on a bill of 6 or more. It doesn't bother me. But I'm like Larry, it's like I want to give what I want to give.
You know, Sandy, I think the message officials want both consumers and restaurant owners to take away here is education. One, a gratuity is voluntary. Secondly, restaurants do reserve the right to charge for their services as long as it's labeled appropriately. And then finally, of course, those services need to be posted up front.
Thanks for that, Erica. Establishments who violate the law can be subject to fines of up to $5,000 per instance. In other news, election officials have updated the territory's election state plan, and they need the public's input. This second and latest revision was completed by the Election Reform Advisory Council as required by Help America Vote Act, or HAVA. There's a mandatory review period of the state plan that began on March 2nd and runs for 30 days. The public can see a copy on the election website at www.vivote.gov. It's also available at the election offices across the territory, the public libraries, Veterans Affairs offices, and UVI libraries. The public is asked to submit comments or recommendations on that plan. The Virgin Islands Territorial Emergency Management Agency, or VITEMA, will be holding a Hazard Mitigation Assistance Grant Program seminar for government departments and agencies, as well as nonprofit organizations interested in applying for federal dollars to offset the costs of eligible mitigation activities. The seminar is scheduled for 10 a.m. to noon on Tuesday, March 17th, and will be held via video conference at VITEMA's Emergency Operations Centers on St. Croix and St. Thomas. The HMA grant program is administered by the Federal Emergency Management Agency and is designed to reduce a community's vulnerability to disasters and their effects to promote resilience. District Court Judge Curtis Gomez today sentenced Desi Henry Jr., 21 years of age, to 40 months in prison for possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number, and Jibri Roberts, 22, to 5 months in prison for possession of a firearm within a school zone, according to court records. Both men were in possession of 3 firearms that were discovered after a traffic stop on September 24, 2014 on Veterans Drive, St. Thomas. On December 8, 2014, Roberts pleaded guilty to possession of a firearm in a school zone, and Henry pleaded guilty to possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number and possession of an unlicensed firearm. Well, police remind you that if you have any information about crimes or any persons involved, You can call Crime Stoppers. You never have to give your name or appear in court. Crime Stoppers USVI will pay a cash reward of up to $2,500, and you can remain anonymous. Unclaimed rewards expire 6 months after award date. Here's this week's Crime Stoppers report. On St. John on November 18, 2014, about 9:15 a.m., police responded to a call about a man who was found motionless in his home in the area of Hanson Bay. If you have any information concerning the death of Mr. Edward Hutton Netherland, please let Crime Stoppers know so that there can be some closure in this case. Officers on St. Thomas say on February 11th, about 6:40 a.m., they were dispatched to Building 10 and 22 high-rise because a man had been shot and was lying in a vehicle. Upon arrival, officers found 21-year-old Leroy Rollins of St. Kitts dead from gunshot wounds. Again, on St. Croix on Sunday, February 15th, 911 received a call of shots fired in the Concordia area of Frederickstead. Officers responded and made a check of the area but did not find anything unusual. However, the next day, about 7:45 a.m., 911 received a call indicating that there was a body in the back of apartment 61 of Section 3, Concordia Villas, Frederickstead. Officers responded and found a male with multiple gunshot wounds. Tajil Harrigan of Building 18, Apartment 227, Harborview Apartments, died from his injuries. Detectives with the Major Crimes Division are investigating the matter, and they're urging anyone with information concerning this homicide to contact the Criminal Investigation Bureau. You can also call 911 if you want to remain anonymous. And of course, Crime Stoppers, that number is 1-800-222-8477. The U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission and the U.S. Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division signed a new memorandum of understanding to further the goals of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 in prohibiting employment discrimination in the state and local government sector. That signing ceremony took place on Monday, March 2nd at DOJ's headquarters in Washington, D.C., and it included remarks from Assistant Attorney General Vanita Gupta of the Civil Rights Division. The MOU includes provisions for the coordination of the investigation of charges of discrimination on the basis of any characteristics, while respecting the distinct responsibilities and enforcement priority of each agency. This MOU codifies a pilot project that was launched in 2009 by DOJ and EEOC. We'll turn our attention overseas. Federal investigators believe the Ferguson, Missouri Police Department is racially biased. The Justice Department released a report today spelling out the reasons why. It claims officers violated Black people's civil rights on a regular basis. The investigation began after a white officer shot and killed an unarmed Black man last summer. President Obama's healthcare law is facing another test at the Supreme Court. Today, the challenge focuses on who is entitled to subsidized health insurance coverage and centers around a 6-word phrase in the law. Supporters of President Obama's healthcare reform law gathered early on the steps of the Supreme Court. A decision on today's case is expected in late June. Keeping our eye on the economy, the market opened lower today following the release of a softer than expected report on jobs. The Waze navigation app will start displaying amber alerts for abducted children. The alerts will pop up on the screen and target a driver's specific location to prevent distracted driving. The notifications will be sent by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Target is cutting several thousand jobs. The retailer plans to eliminate $2 billion in costs over the next 2 years by streamlining operations and becoming more efficient. Here's the New York Stock Exchange with the Stock Market Watch. Everything down. The Dow 106, NASDAQ 12, S&P 9. Coming up on News 2, here is a VI history quiz. He was the first elected governor of the United States of the Virgin Islands. His term ran from 1969 to 1975. We'll be right back. The VI celebrates Virgin Islands History Month this month, and News 2 joins the celebration by featuring notable Virgin Islanders. Melvin Herbert Evans was the first elected governor of the United States Virgin Islands. His term ran from 1969 to 1975. The statesman was born in Christiansted in St. Croix. He was the Virgin Islands Health Commissioner before serving as governor and eventually moved on toward becoming a delegate to the House of Representatives. Evans was appointed United States Ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago until his death. The Melvin Evans Highway in St. Croix was named in his honor. Women's History Month is also recognized. It's an annual declared month that highlights the contributions of women to events in history and contemporary society, corresponding with International Women's Day, which is March 8th. Now, we would like to recognize Howard University professor Afia Fredericks. After lecturing at UVI recently, she stopped over at the John H. Woodson Junior High School, her alma mater, to share with students her experiences and journey. A native Virgin Islander, Dr. Fredericks graduated from St. Croix Educational Complex in 2005, earned a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology at UVI in 2009, a Master of Science degree in 2011, and her doctorate in Developmental Psychology in 2014, both at Howard University. She credited her mother, Myrtle Fredericks, a retired John H. Woodson Junior High School Social Studies teacher who was recruited back to the classroom to fill a critical post.
To her last night at UVI, and she did a great job. So I felt like, okay, she can handle herself. I don't have to worry about her anymore.
Senator Myron Jackson is one of several hosts to a group of Danish conservationists visiting the territory. In conjunction with the start of Virgin Islands History Month, the group of about 13 is on a study tour to learn more about the development of several of the old buildings in St. Croix and St. Thomas, and to gain some insight into ways these sites can be restored to their former glory, including Fort Christian, J. Antonio Jarvis Elementary School, which served as the old Danish hospital, and the Lutheran and Jewish cemeteries. The group has already made its rounds on St. Croix, visiting sites such as Fort Christian Vern, the barracks, the Steeple Building, and Government House, just to name a few. Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett announced that during a meeting Tuesday with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, there was agreement to increase staffing and resources in order to review projects currently in development in the Virgin Islands that have permit applications pending with the Corps. During her discussions with Colonel Alan Dodd, Commander, Jacksonville District, Representative Plaskett had expressed concerns that the Corps permitting process and subsequent delays were creating uncertainty for several economic development projects underway in the territory. She said staffing and resources will be put into place beginning next week to work on reducing the backlog of permits handled by the Jacksonville office. Well, students from the Alfredo Andrews Elementary School learned more about St. Croix's rich history. The students heard presentations, made jewelry, and hiked to Columbus Landing as part of the Salt River Bay's Ticket to Ride program. It's a partnership between the National Park Service and Project Promise, who designed the program. It allows all public sixth graders to learn about Salt River Bay National Park and Ecological Reserve.
We went over a little bit about Taino history, and we learned about the different types of adornments that they made. I think it's important for them to know what was here before they were here and to know about the history of the islands that they come from.
We want students to be able to come out and see Salt River for what was here, what is actually here now. We just want the students to understand the importance of it, why it became under the national park, and also the things that make up Salt River Bay. We barely scratch the surface when we just look at the area, but we want them to see the whole depth of it.
A new exhibit is opening on Thursday. St. Croix artist John Jones is showing his new collection called Fire Down There, the uncompromising expressions of sound and color. The solo exhibit opens at Walsh Metalworks Gallery with a reception beginning at 5. The exhibit runs from March 5th to March 28th.
From 5 to 8, we're going to have a opening reception, which is going to be really nice. I'm inviting everybody to come. I think even if you're not an art lover, you will love the experience. I'm just basically playing with various song titles, various styles of songs, and each painting represents how songs or music evolves.
Be sure to check out that exhibit and stick around. Your News2 Acura The Forecast is coming up next.